Today breeds a very important information and discussion in relation to searches. Many persons within society have wondered whether the police can break into your houses at any weird hours in the morning or therefore, and whether they will have a legitimate right to do so. The answer to that is no, and there are a number of reasons why that answer can be supported. We must remember that the supreme law of the land is our Constitution. And I invite us to look at Articles 143 of the Constitution, which protects every single person from any arbitrary search for, or entry. Now, embodied in that, the article says very clearly, except with his or her own consent, so you have to consent, no person shall be subjected to search of his or her person or his or her property or the entry by others on his or her premises. Now that is the law. From Articles 143 2, subsection 2, you will find how this right that you have, this fundamental right that you have, can be affected. So let's say clearly, that right is not an absolute right, because there are provisions in which an entry can be made without your consent. And the law lays down, the Constitution lays down those circumstances. One is where there is a need for authorities to enter the premises in the interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, public health, town or county planning, of course, and then there is development or utilization of mineral sources, or the development or utilization of any other property in such manner as to promote the public benefit. Now, listen to how wide and how important that right that you have to ensure that no one enters your property, how that can be affected. Now, B says, if there is a reasonable required for the purpose of protecting the rights and freedoms of other persons. So, let us say, for example, if a person is in a property and that person was kidnapped, or there is an issue of trafficking of persons and they are housed in a particular property, then the authorities will have the right or justification of entering that property without your consent, so as to protect the rights of others and, of course, the freedom of others. Of course, when you look at C as well as D, the only way in which your right to prevent arbitrary searches can be affected is where, of course, it is for some public purpose, or where there is a reason for enforcing a judgment which was passed by the court. Then if there is a judgment against you or against your property, then the authorities will not have to have your permission or your consent to enter the property. So I wanted to clarify to you that those are circumstances in which your consent is not required. There is no provision in the supreme law of the land which allows the police to enter your premises without a search warrant. Now, very importantly, the police can enter your premises by search warrant, which is protected under the statute, and you may want to look at section 50 of the Criminal Law Procedure Act, chapter 10:01, which speaks to search warrant. Lay down in the statute under that piece of legislation, you will have what the authorities must establish to a magistrate before a search warrant can be issued. What then is the police powers? The police powers will come under the Police Act, and of course, if you look at section 18 of that act, you will see what their powers surrounds. Their powers, of course, surrounds stopping and searching and seizure. They have the powers to do that, but again, that is not to enter private premises. One will have to be on the road, and of course, one will have to have the police will have to have certain justifiable or reasonable suspicion of a crime, or that a crime is about to be committed by a particular person. That will justify the police's stopping and searching you, and any form of seizure on the road. When we look at the laws, this right that the police have in terms of entering premises is only protected under the conditions that I have laid out. Under the Constitution, if they are going by way of court order, or whether they are going by way of enforcing a judgment, or that they are going by way of where someone is held, kidnapped, they have trafficking of persons and so on. But if your situation does not fit into those circumstances, then the police will not have a right to kick down your door and enter your premises. Now, there is an entire different body of law which we will be able to discuss in a subsequent broadcast that deals with illegal entry. So if the police have entered premises and they have seized certain items of evidential value, there is a different body of law as to how you treat that and as to how the courts will treat that. That is not what we're talking about here. We are talking about your protected rights. Your protected rights is governed under the Constitution, and it does not afford the police, while you are asleep, to kick down your door and to march into your premises and to search your premises and to do what they please without going through the procedures laid down by law. There is a distinction if one wants to argue that right for the police to do searches was protected under the common law. We have statute. We have statute now, which of course gives guidelines. And of course, we have the supreme law, which is the Constitution, which dictates how searches can be done. If you have not consented to the police coming into your premises, you have a right to seek redress from the courts. You have a right to stay in your property, you have a right to be protected in your property, and you have a right not to allow any form of authorities to break into your premises, that being the police, and conduct searches without a search warrant. Ask for a search warrant. If they cannot produce a search warrant, then you ought to prevent that search. Tell them clearly, you cannot search my premises. Go and secure a search warrant. It is your right. It is your right. There is a developing body of law which supports that right, and that is a right that you, as citizens of this country, can enforce. Thank you.